So this video is about the unique provisions in our Louisiana trust code regarding class trusts. Hey everybody, I'm Paul Rabelais. End of a long day, great day. Had a great client event here today and had a bunch of clients in the office going through how to maintain things and make sure things stay the right way. Fourth edition of my book came out today on Amazon. Go check that out. Go buy it. Write a great review. That would be real helpful to me if we're giving you good, value here. And then I did have a piece of constructive criticism today. One of the people who came to my client event, she's probably my biggest fan. She watches all the YouTube videos and has told numerous people to get their legal services taken care of by me and our firm. And anyway, at the end of the event, she said, "Paul, love what you're doing, but got a piece of advice. Don't like to be negative, but one thing I want to just kind of give you a suggestion." And I'm like, "Oh, geez, what did I do now? I know I'm not perfect and I make mistakes from now and then, but what did I do?" She said, "Well, Paul, I really feel like when I watch your videos, sometimes I'm wondering if people think that you're not feeling well because of your rosy cheeks. I really think you ought to put some makeup on every time you make a video." And I'm thinking to myself, I make a video almost every day and I'm not into makeup. I've worn makeup a few times on some television appearances and being put on a big screen. Other than that, I'm not a makeup person. So I just told her, I'm not going to wear makeup. She was really disappointed. She thought, because my daughter was standing right there, she thought that my daughter would fix me up and get me all fixed up with makeup. It's not going to happen. If you have any comments about that, feel free to, although those comments could go all over the place, so just keep them positive and constructive. So anyway, want to talk about class trusts. It's a couple of these issues came across the office in the last couple of days. We don't see it often, but when it works, it can really help a family. So give you an example. Let's say great-grandpa walks into the office. He says, "Paul, I've done well. I've accumulated. I've saved. My children have done well. My grandchildren now, they're all getting educated. What I want to do is I want to leave $1 million when I die to my great-grandchildren. But the problem, Paul, is only one great-grandchild exists right now. And I know I'm going to have a bunch more because I have 10 grandchildren. But my only great-grandchild is 1 year old, and I want to leave it to all of those great-grandchildren that may exist whether I'm alive or dead." Well, normally that's not permissible because our Louisiana trust code says that a beneficiary must be in being and ascertainable on the date of the creation of the trust. And in great-grandpa's example, the date that he died would be the date of the creation of the trust. So if he left $1 million to his great-grandchildren under our typical trust code provisions, only the great-grandchildren that existed when great-grandpa died would be able to benefit from that $1 million. The ones that were born after, they'd be out. However, we have these class trust provisions, and if you leave things for the benefit of a certain defined class, then they can include people who were born after the creation of the trust, because our class trust provisions say that a person may create a trust in favor of a class consisting or some or all of their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, nieces, nephews, great-nieces, great-nephews, or grandnieces, grandnephews, or great-grandnieces and great-grandnephews, although some of those members of the class are not yet in being at the time of the creation of the trust, provided at least one member of the class is then in being. So great-grandpa wants to leave $1 million to his great-grandchild. That's the class of great-grandchildren. And he only has one great-grandchild at the time of the creation of the trust when great-grandpa dies. That's okay if he structures it as a class trust for the benefit of some or all of his great-grandchildren. So, got to make it a class trust, got to fit within the class trust. And if you're going to benefit people who are born after the creation of the trust, it's going to have to be members of those particular classes of children, descendants, nieces and nephews, descendants, that I went over about a minute ago. All right, so when you set up a class trust, though, there's some dates and some terms that you need to be put in there, because at some point the class has to close. At some point you either have to provide no more members of the class after this date, and if you don't provide a date, the class doesn't close until members may no longer be added to the class, which in our case, great-grandpa leaves $1 million to the class of great-grandchildren. The time at which there's not possible for there to be members added to the class is when all of the grandchildren die, because as our trust code says, the grandchildren could adopt at any age, so the class doesn't close until all the grandchildren die many decades later. And then you need to put in a term of the trust, which is, when this thing ends, because if you don't provide for it, the trust lasts until the death of the last surviving member of the class. So you're talking about 100 years maybe or more after the trust is set up. The trust lasts until that time frame. So there's other provisions in our class trust provisions that talk about, well, what if a member dies before the trust is created? What if a class member dies during the term of the trust? What happens to that member's share of the trust? So all that's part of getting everything set up the right way. So again, if you want to benefit certain relatives that may not be born at the time the trust is created, you're going to want to take a look at the class trust provisions and see if that fits for what you're trying to accomplish. So hope that helps. I'm Paul Rabelais. Go take care of this thing. Wow, just think about leaving an amount to great-grandchildren, how long that will last and how many people that will benefit. And you can be specific as to how you'd want them to benefit from it. Is it for education? Do you want them to get it at a certain age? So you've got some control there, got to get it done just right. But boy, and then all of the growth of that bequest over the years could really be significant if handled the right way. So good stuff. Take care of this stuff for your family. Going to be the last great gift you give them. Hope this helps. Y'all have a great day.